All seems to not be well in the Synagogue Church of All Nations. Of course, that is expected, particularly with the structure that TB Joshua left. TB Joshua never presented that family as Daddy Gio, Mommy Gio, and Children Gio. He never did any of that. He actually presented himself like the only person called to do what it does. Evelyn Balogun Joshua never was given any special seat. In fact, she was not that seen in the church. A lot of people applauded that, saying, oh, it is kind of different from the norm, from what we are used to. Well, I'll throw that to you out there to decide upon. Do you think it is acceptable that should happen? And with the structure that was put there in the Synagogue Church of All Nations, there are a lot of issues that are going on right now. It seems disciples and members of the church, not just members, I mean the inner caucus, that's what I mean by members of the church, such as the disciples and the wise men and women, the ones that were left after TB Joshua, after the demise of TB Joshua. Did TB Joshua leave a will? That is something that is a bone of contention. Probably left some amount of money, huge amount of money, or he had a safe or something that the wife could go to, break into, and get some strong hard currency that are lying around or stored somewhere, kept for herself. We don't know much of that. But what we know is that the women, particularly the women that spent all their lives in the Synagogue Church of All Nations, the women who came in there in their 20s and they kept on being there till their 40s. Many of them are not married. According to what we heard, I am not sure, I'm not there. They said many of them served TB Joshua both spiritually and in the other way, physically. That is what they are saying. But let's go to what is on right now. And if you're just coming across this channel, tap on the subscription button and the red notification icon bell to alert you whenever videos such as this are dropped. If you're a returning subscriber, I say thanks for always returning. A federal high court sitting in Lagos has approved the appointment of Mrs. Evelyn Joshua as a trustee of the Synagogue Church of All Nations, Scoan. People might be wondering, why is this going on? Why should the federal high court in Lagos approve the appointment? It's called an appointment of Evelyn Joshua. To have an appointment, to have a trustee means there are other people that are part of that church. There are other people that are part of the structure of the church. Certain people came forward saying that Evelyn Joshua has not been appointed, blah, 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 that they are this, they are the head of the committee of this, of finance, of that and that. I never knew that such people existed in the Synagogue Church of All Nations. But the issue is this: did TB Joshua know that he was passing away? Did he not think of putting something down that will not cause issues later? I think most of the times it's always like that. Many of them, unless it is like hand to hand, like you pass it down from yourself down to your children. And you know, TB Joshua never had a son. He only had women. That is on one side. Now, TB Joshua probably was aware, or he was fighting the death, as we saw many other things that many people were not aware of when he went around asking old people to pray on him, holding their legs. People looked at it and said, oh, what an humble man. Actually, if you understand spiritual things and you are smart and you are wise, you will come to realize, and you're a Nigerian, you will come to realize that TB Joshua was simply asking for elongation of life by going to meet those elderly people to pray on him. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it. Justice Tijani Ringim gave the approval on Thursday while ruling on a petition by some concerned members of the church, especially Kola Karim and Muji Oguntoyimbo, who filed for themselves and on behalf of all the members of Scoan. In the petition, they urged the court to appoint the widow of the founder of the church as a member of the trustee, in line with the constitution of the church, which prescribes a minimum of 3 trustees for Scoan. The petitioners claimed that their petition followed the sudden demise of the late general overseer of the Scoan, fondly called Prophet Temitope Balogun Joshua, who was also a church trustee. They argued that the 2 surviving members of the board of trustees lacked the legal capacity to make decisions necessary to move the church forward, as the constitution provides for a minimum of 3 members on the board of trustees. In the circumstance, it became imperative for an additional trustee, and this additional trustee is Evelyn Joshua. That's just it. So the members instituted a suit against the incorporated trustees of Scoan, the Corporate Affairs Commission, CAC, and Mrs. Evelyn Joshua. They were represented in court by Emeka Ekwezo, while Osazuwe represented the first and second respondents. Another counsel, O.N. Chuku, appeared for the CAC. All the respondents, though, through their lawyers, informed the court that they were not opposed to the petition filed under Section 8396, subsection B of the Companies and Allied Matters Act, CAMA, 2020, as amended. Now, questions that a lot of people are asking is this a charity or business? That's what people are asking. Is this church classed as charity or business? Why is there board of this and companies and allied matters and all of that? I'm going to throw that out to you guys that are vast in all of these things. What do you think about it? What do you think? Well, I think it is not bad. It is good that it bringing legal backings to this. With no objections from the respondents, the court wasted no time in granting the approval, and the expectation is that the move will provide further clarity on the leadership succession in the church. Well, from the news that we are hearing from different corners, as you all know, that the rest of the first set of wise men left. Some left angrily. Some left by TB Joshua signing them off, while some decided to stay. We often see three people, two men, the one from England and the one from, I think, Ivory Coast or Cote d'Ivoire. It's called Wiseman Rising. And there is also a woman too. She's part of the, let's call them the junior prophets. They go around the crowd performing and touching on people, and people are following and doing the same thing. We heard that Wiseman Rising is nowhere, probably decided to start his own ministry somewhere. Like others, he must have gotten what he needs, and he left. And before the demise of TB Joshua, we heard that he invited all of his spiritual sons, particularly the wise men. They all came, the wise men, the ones that left angry and all of that. Probably TB Joshua decided to release power to them, or TB Joshua decided to make peace with them, the ones that he had issues with. You know, at times, spiritual fathers do not want their spiritual son to leave, and when they leave, some of them leave, angrily. So that's just what it is. So right now, people are asking the questions that people are asking: is this a business or is it a church? Whatever it is, I think TB Joshua did not anoint one person. When you have a structure like that, you always have one person that might want to take over from the prophet. But I think I'm not trying to put an end to it. I'm not trying to put an end to the Synagogue Church of All Nations. I know the wife of TB Joshua will want to continue, but the reality on ground, and from what I'm seeing, and from the information that is being passed to us, although I've not done any analysis on many of the information that is coming forward about, like I said initially, setting inner caucus, trying to quickly get money off from the church. Well, I wouldn't blame some of them. Many of them used all their lives there, and if they just go off like that, they don't have nothing. They don't have nothing. They don't even have the anointing. Some of them were choirs. Some of them participated in that church in different capacities that will not amount to anything if they are outside of the church. And now with the church not active anymore, probably they decide to give the church some, members some few period before they resume. Who is going to take over? TB Joshua's church is not just like a church, like church, pastor church. It is a prophetic church where things happen. And if nothing is happening, nobody is coming. If people are not vomiting, falling on the floor and screaming and shouting and confessing and all of that, I don't think anybody wants to come for that. That's what people come for. People didn't come there to hear preaching and get, they wanted deliverance, they wanted healing and all of that. So it will take someone who can perform in that capacity to take care of that church. If that is not available, I don't think it is possible. TB Joshua's wife never performed any of that. TB Joshua never anointed the wife. He would have imparted, but he refused for his own personal reasons not to impart on the woman. We don't know what might happen. Maybe one day, in the twinkling of an eye, she will sleep and something will happen. And then she will say she was transported in the realm of the spirit, and she will begin to perform like the husband. We don't know what will become of it, but what we are seeing, there's a possibility that that church might not function like before. It might go down, and we don't know. Well, anything can happen. When he was buried, we saw people falling on the floor, vomiting. People might decide to come there.